Hello, chess.com viewers. My name is Alexander Delchev, and this is the first video from the series about the Scotch game. In this video, I will go over the main ideas for white and black, and I will briefly consider all black possible moves. Then in the upcoming videos, I will analyze each of them in more detail, and I will talk about the opening traps, the instructive games, and for those who seriously consider adding the Scotch game in his opening repertoire, I can share some of my opening secrets. Now let's go. After the moves e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, white is at the crossroads. The most common opening moves are bishop to c4, the Italian, and bishop to b5, the Ruy Lopez. These two opening systems have something in common. White's first task is to finish the development of the bishop, then following by moves like a castle short, then playing c3, then maybe rook e1, then d4, postponing attacking the center for the more suitable moment. But a Scotch game, starting with the move d4, has a completely different approach. By attacking immediately the center, undermining the central pawn e5, black should take on d4. I don't really think there is a playable alternative to this move. Now white takes knight to d4, and the first result of fight for the center, white has achieved full control over the d4 and e4 squares. So now black has a big range of possibilities, but there are only a few of them which is giving him a fair chance to pass successfully the opening stage. Those moves are bishop to c5, which is a classical Scotch, attacking the knight on d4. Then the next move is knight to f6. This is the two main black alternatives. Then there is a bishop to b4 check, the third most common move here, and queen to h4, which is a very interesting possibility, which by the way is somehow, I can say this, almost refuted, as so early queen development leads to big problems for black. These four main moves I will consider separately in the next videos. And for now, I think it's good to start with the moves d6. It's some, let's say, a passive move. Let's see what will white do after this move. We have a very good options here, a very big choice. We can develop the knight to c3, knight to f6, and then we have a freedom to choose between the aggressive setup with the castle long, which I recommend, as this is the most aggressive way for white to continue in these pawn structures. Let's say bishop to e3, bishop to e7, then after queen to d2, castle short, and then castle long. White has a big advantage in this opposite side castling position, and his attack with f3 and g4 followed by g5 chasing the knight from f6 is much more quickly developing than black initiative on the other wing. So my advice to you is, when you have a chance to adopt and to play this option with the long castle, you should always strive, because this gives white a very strong attack. And of course, after move d6, white can play the more simple and more positional approach. Let's say knight to f6, bishop e2, bishop to e7. Let's say castle, then bishop to e3, developing the bishop, rook to e8, now f4, bishop to f8, and bishop to f3. With the very simple and logical moves, white achieved a very strong centralized position, and in the future they will continue to adding pressure in the center with queen d2, rook to d1, and the main idea for white at such positions is to open the center in the suitable moment with e4, e5 break. Okay, in all these positions, black is not so big chances to create a good counterplay. So another common move between the amateur players here is to take on d4, releasing completely the control of the center. And after queen to d4, black doesn't have any reasonable moves, because knight to f6, white will play e5, bishop from f8 cannot move because g7 is hanging. So this move is, I don't really recommend to black players, but anyway, I will look at more detail in the next videos. And let me now show you one instructive game in which white shows his potential, his attacking potential. After the move g6, which is, by the way, looking as a very reasonable way to finish development, to play bishop to g7, adding pressure on the knight on d4, white continue with the knight to c3, bishop to g7, and then preparing the lone castle with bishop e3, followed by queen d2. Then the idea is to play h4, h5, and delivering mate on the castle king. So after bishop to e3, black plays another natural move, knight to f6. But here it appears to be an opening mistake. Here the first point to remember, when you have such knight developing to f6, you always take here on c6, and after black capture, b takes c6. Now we go e5, attacking the knight, winning a tempo. And pawn e5 is very important in white attacking chances. It's cramping black position, taking advantage in space advantage. And after knight to g8, there is no other reasonable move. Says after knight h5, white will play g4, winning a piece. Knight d5 is not recommendable, as well as is losing a pawn without compensation. So after knight to g8, white continue with f4, supporting the central pawn and keeping the flexible choice between the different setups, queen to f3, bishop to c4, and maybe castle long or castle short, depending on what black is doing. Here black continue with the logical f6, but with this move black is hoping to exchange the strong central pawn and to have some relief, then to develop the knight to f6 and castle short. But here the most important moment of the game, white is sacrificing the pawn for development, played bishop to c4, taking the diagonal and keeping black king in the center. So black accept the sacrifice. There is no other reasonable move. So we go castle short, and here we are. And white is sacrificed the pawn for attack, and black has a very dangerous position. Usually such game finish very quickly. Black goes to move d5 now, and very naively thinking that this move will stop our attack. But of course, after we say A, we should say B. And here, what do you think is the white best move? If you need more time, you can pause your video. Of course, knight to d5. Sacrificing a piece is taking the initiative is a very powerful way to play in chess, because you put a lot of pressure to your opponent. After c take d5, white took bishop to d5, attacking the rook. And here black made a bad move, playing rook to b8. But even after the best bishop f5, white can go queen to f3, attacking one more time the rook and preparing to go rook to d1 and taking the big lead in development and a strong attack against black king in the center. So After rook b8, try to guess the best move, how white completed his attack. Yeah, bishop to f7, and black resigned as there is no way to defend the queen. If king e7, there will be a bishop to c5. Very short and instructive game, which demonstrate clearly white attacking potential, and that if black doesn't attack immediately the center, they are awaiting a very big danger. And now I would like to repeat the most important points of this video. So after the move d4, white is declaring a war for the center squares. And after black takes e take d4, we take knight to d4. And if black give us the time, we can continue with the knight to c3, bishop to e3, then probably bishop to c4 and castle short, or maybe queen d2 and castle long. We'll come back again to these moves in my next videos. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you back. Welcome back to my video series about the Scotch game. I'm Grandmaster Alexander Delchev, and this is a video number 2. After the well-known opening moves e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, e take d4, knight d4, this is a main starting position for the Scotch game. And here I will focus your attention on the move bishop c5. This is considered for many theoreticians as a best possible black move, as it attacks the knight to d4 and develops the bishop in the same time. So now white has 3 different alternatives. The first one is to take knight to c6. It's a little bit illogical because white is doing a third move in a row with his knight f3, knight d4, knight to c6. But this is a choice of many of the top players, because he invests his time in achieving a little bit better pawn structure. And after the moves like b takes c6, or d takes c6, let's say white will go bishop to d3, and then in the middle game he will have a very small advantage. But having a better pawn structure, you need a very good technique to take any advantage of it. So the second move here is knight to b3. Knight goes to b3, attacking the bishop on c5. So after bishop to b6, white usually continue knight to c3, knight f6. And then after queen to e2, white is preparing to exchange the bishops with bishop e3, and then going into the most aggressive setup, as I said in the previous video, that this is white's best chance. But here, in this concrete position, black has a very good chances to start his attack first by playing a5, a4, and chasing the knight on b3. It's really a very interesting, a very complicated line, but I think my recommendation here after bishop c5 is the move bishop to e3, which is the most logical and natural move. White is defending the knight, and then the threat is to take on c6, winning the bishop on c5. And black should pay attention to this, because after the move d6, which seems very logical, after a very simple exchange operation, after knight to c6, bishop to c5, and then after exchanging queens, queen to d8, king to d8, white has almost winning advantage in the end game, as a triple pawn c-file are very weak. Most probably white will win one of them and to claim a decisive material advantage. Of course, black should avoid this, and one of the possible ways is to play bishop to b6, just protecting the bishop. But this is exactly what white needs to win one tempo in the opening. So continue with knight to c3, then knight f6, queen to d2, castle short, and then castle long. We achieve the ideal setup, let's say after rook e8, f3, and white can continue with g4, g5, and I don't really see a good square for the knight from f6. This gives white a very powerful attack, and I think it's the best approach. The best approach for black here is to play queen to f6. But this move also has his best and his good and bad sides. After queen to f6, black is adding pressure to d4. But from the other side, he should be very careful about the possible tactical motive connected with knight b5, as the c7 is left without defense. Of course, white has the only move c3, and then after the knight e7, we have the main starting position of this line. I'd like to show you one very instructive game, which I usually show to my students about the topic of the attack against the uncastled king. This is the game between a very famous Russian theoretician, Evgeny Sveshnikov, and very strong grandmaster, the inventor of the line in the Sicilian defense, which bears his name. And the black pieces is a grandmaster Viktor Varavin, also a very strong Russian grandmaster. In this game, white continues bishop to c4, controlling a d5 square, which is a very important move, as it prevents the move d5 with eliminating white central pawn. After bishop to c4, black played knight e5, but here is one very typical mistake for black, which is queen to g6. It happened for the first time, also in a game between very strong players. White was Vasily Ivanchuk, and then, this game was played in 1991, and Ivanchuk was 22 years old, against one of the legendary players, Boris Gulko. In this game, white clearly refuted this move. Can you see the way Ivanchuk continued in this position? Yeah, he took knight takes c6, and after queen to c6, of course, bishop to e3 is not a good move, as after knight e7, white is attacking the queen, and on the next move he will take the bishop, remaining with a piece up. So after the queen to c6, there is a key move for white: bishop to f7 check, king to f7, and then after queen h5, white won a pawn with a continuous attack, won a game very quickly. So as you see, even the strong players are making mistakes in such tense positions. Instead of queen to g6, the best move played by black in this game is knight to e5, chasing the bishop from c4, winning a tempo for centralizing the knight. White goes back bishop to e2. This is the best place for the bishop, controlling the g4 square in the case We want now to go f4 and to win a space. In this position, black goes a very strong move, queen to g6. It's a logical continuation. Black is attacking both g2 and e4 pawn, and white doesn't have any other move. So castle short, followed castle short here in this position. And here black continue with a very sharp, very aggressive move, d5. This game was played in 1991. This was the first position, the first time when white showed the refutation of this move. It was a great novelty then, as in this position black has quite an unpleasant threat to play bishop to h3, and then probably followed by castle long, completing development and having a very strong initiative. Now the strong move which white played is bishop to h5. It's a great novelty, which idea is to force black to take the pawn on e4. There is no good alternatives for this move, as queen to d6, white has knight to b5, very strong, and after queen b6, white is winning with the typical bishop to c5, queen to c5, and now queen to d4. So after queen takes e4, white idea, opening the e-file against the uncastled king, will follow with the rook e1. But firstly, white won a tempo by knight to d2, forcing black to make another move with the queen. So black went queen to d3. If instead there was an interesting move, queen to h4, which has a very surprising refutation. Try to see what is white's best continuation. Well, there is a hanging bishop on c5 and hanging knight e5. So the idea, if white is to play knight to f3, but firstly, because the bishop is hanging, so white is just sacrificing the bishop, and doesn't matter what black is doing. After king f7, white is playing knight to f3, attacking the queen, attacking the knight, and attacking the bishop. So after knight to f3, knight to f3, so again, black has no chance to defend both pieces, because if queen c4, there is knight e5 fork, and white is winning black queen. So in this position, after queen to d3, after queen goes to d3, white plays again the same surprising idea. White plays knight to f3. The main idea of white attack now, the first stage in the attack, is to try to keep the black king in the center. So white should play aggressive moves, winning a tempo on the way, and avoiding black from doing useful moves like castle short. So here in this position, after knight f3, black chooses the only move to stay in the game, bishop to d6. Otherwise, if knight to f3, white goes queen to f3, and then attacking both the bishop on c5 and also a pawn on f7. As well, a bad move is, after knight f3, the bad move is to take bishop e3, because then after knight e5, white is attacking in the same time the queen and the pawn on f7. So what happened after knight f3? Bishop to d6. White took knight e5, bishop e5, and then another key move, very typical for such position, is bishop to c5, keeping black king in the center for one more move, just enough to have a time to play rook e1. So black went queen to f5, trying to keep a bishop on e5. So rook e1, white is preparing to win a piece by bishop e7, and then attacking the bishop, which will be pinned on the open file. So black went g6, chasing the bishop, and to be able to play f6 on the next move, somehow to defend his bishop. And here begins the second stage of the attack. After bishop to e7, black king is losing the right to castle. Now king to e7, and then knight to f3, adding more pressure and more pieces into attack. Now the e5 bishop is attacked, and also a queen to d5. After f6, white finished the game just in a couple of moves, knight take e5, and then queen takes d5. And after king f6, of course, it's a very easy winning position, but can you find how white completed the attack? Yes, bishop to g4. This is a typical decoy motif. Now, if black takes the bishop, then white will go queen to e5 and then taking the rook on h8. After queen to g5, white can go, for example, h4, queen to f4, and then g3, and black has no chance to defend his central pawn. Well, okay, let's outline the most important things we learn in this video. After the move bishop to c5, this is a classical Scotch, and I think white most natural move is bishop to e3. Then black has to defend his bishop on c5, and the best possible idea here is queen to f6. After that, after c3, white is winning the fight for the d4 square, and black should be very careful about the tactical possibility of knight to b5, because black king is now far from the defense of the c7. So this is all for this video, the whole material. I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward seeing you back soon. Dear chess.com viewers, I'm a Grandmaster Alexander Delchev, and we'll continue in this video to analyze the Scotch game, and more precisely, a black move knight f6. After the moves e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, e take d4, knight d4, black plays knight f6, which is considered as a very good choice, and it's played by many respectable positional players like Karpov, Kramnik, Aronian, and of course many others. Black is attacking the pawn on e4 and has a flexible choice, keeping his choice about the development of the bishop on f8. So now if white goes knight to c3, black will have Dear chess.com viewers, I'm a Grandmaster Alexander Delchev, and we'll continue in this video to analyze the Scotch game, and more precisely, black move knight f6. After the moves e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, e take d4, knight d4, black plays knight f6, which is considered as a very good choice, and it's played by many respectable positional players like Karpov, Kramnik, Aronian, and of course many others. Black is attacking the pawn on e4 and has a flexible choice, keeping his choice about the development of the bishop on f8. So now if white goes knight to c3, black will have options to pin the knight with bishop b4. So my advice is to avoid this line, and always when black has the possibility to play bishop to b4, avoiding to play knight c3. Here, very important key move here is knight takes c6. With this move, starting the Mises variation, one of the most enigmatic and sharp lines in the whole Scotch game. After b takes c6, as I said, the d takes c6 is not a good choice. And after queen to d8, king to d8, black king will remain in the center, and white, of course, has a superior pawn structure, which is quite enough advantage to achieve for white. So after b takes c6, now a key move is to play e5. It's a very typical idea we saw in some other games. So chasing the knight, white is winning a tempo and taking a space. The white pawn e5 is cramping the black position. So here, if black is not well prepared, they can play knight d5, which seems a very natural move, but actually it's a small opening mistake, which leads to disadvantage for black. After c4, knight to b6, white goes naturally knight to c3. And here black has some difficulties with completing his kingside development, as if I play bishop to b4, then white has a very unpleasant and also typical move with the pawn e5 attacking the g7, and black doesn't have a comfortable defense, as a castle short will follow bishop to h6, and white is winning material. So after e5, very important move here is queen to e7. Pinning the pawn is forcing white to play queen to e2, and only now black goes knight to d5. And now white continue with the same idea, c4. Chasing the knight is very important, as give back the natural square c3 for the knight. Black generally has two moves, as black develops another piece, pinning the pawn c4 and preparing to castle long. If you think logically, white is probably in a big danger, as black is making a logical developing moves, and white should play only with the pawns, and they're much behind in development. But from the other point of view, after the move b3, black bishop on a6 is now harmless and can stay on a6 until the rest of the game without much action. After, let's say, b3, if black wants to take a chance and to continue with the castle long, it's actually a very risky approach, as black king on c8 is very uncomfortable, as the b file is open. Now white continues with another very important move, g3, controlling f4 square before playing bishop to b2. Now untypical move can be rook e8, white defend the pawn with bishop b2, and after f6, looks like white is going to lose a pawn. But this is the secret of this line. We don't bother about the material advantage. The most important is the piece activity. And after bishop to g2, f takes e5, and castle short, we have another position with the opposite side castling, where we know that the most important thing is who deliver first mate, who will get to the opponent king first. Now after the moves like e4, knight d2, knight to f6, white continues in a very simple way, queen e3, attacking the pawn, and after black defend the pawn with king b8 or king b7, doesn't matter. We continue with the move b4 and opening the file. Opening the b file is unavoidable, with a very big problems for black, and his material advantage is not of any use in this position. Okay, we'll take a look again at this position after bishop a6 b3. We'll take a more deep look in the video about the opening traps, because there are a lot of tactics. Position is charged with a lot of tactical ideas. But in this game, which I'm going to show you, is a game from 2017 in one of the open tournaments in Spain. And in this game, black used the more flexible move, knight to b6, which is also my preference when I'm playing black pieces. Bishop maybe to b7, maybe to a6. He's also preparing a very aggressive development with g6 and bishop g7. But let's concentrate on white ideas. Continues with the knight to c3, and then there is three possible ways to finish the development. First one is to play bishop to f4 and to castle long, but then white king will be not so comfortably placed on c1. This is only a very risky possibility, and we can play this only when we don't have other choice. And another move, g3, with the idea to complete development by after knight c3. Okay, after knight c3, white can play g3, then bishop to g2, and then castle short. But this is not so easy to achieve, as okay, first of all, bishop on g2 has nothing to do against the pawn c6, and second, black has the possibility to attack the pawn c4 with the queen e6 or bishop a6. So it seems like white, the most harmonious setup is to play queen to e4 and then bishop to d3. Then the bishop and the queen are building a battery on the diagonal against the h7, on the diagonal b1, h7, and then keeping the pawn c4 protected by both queen and the bishop. In this game, black played the move g6, which looks like a very natural continuation, as developing the bishop to g7 and then castle short, putting some pressure to the e5 pawn, looks like a very reasonable way to finish the development. But it appears to be a small opening mistake, which is punished immediately with the move knight to e4. White is threatening knight f6, so black doesn't have much choice. He plays bishop to g7. Now white is sacrificing his central pawn with the move bishop to g5. Of course, it's very risky for black to take the pawn, but let's now, what can white play in this case? What is white's best move here? Try to find it. Well, it's a bishop to f6. Of course, it's a very important, very unpleasant move. Of course, black can give a check, queen to a5 to escape from the bishop, but then knight to c3, a open check, open attack, and then followed by queen to e7, and black is losing material. So in this position, after bishop to g5, black plays queen b4 check, winning a tempo for to continue with the castle short. White goes queen to d2, changing the queens. Queen takes d2, and now king takes d2. White is threatening to play knight to f6, but now black seems like black can take a pawn, bishop to e5. But this leads to a very unpleasant consequences. After knight f6 check, black doesn't have really a choice, because a king f8, we have bishop to h6, so you should take the knight. Then a very important intermediate move, rook to e1 check, and after king f8, we take the bishop, and okay, white has a pawn up, but a very good compensation. After rook g8, the rook and the king are dominated, and there is no big chance that they can enter with these pieces in the game back. Instead of this, black castle short, hoping that this attack is premature, and in the end game they can save with exchanging some key pieces. But white continue with a knight f6 check. Black goes king to h8. Seems black was naively thinking that everything is going fine for them. And now how to continue with the attack? White has a very typical way to continue his attack. Can you find it? If you need more time, you can always pause your video. Of course, white is going h4. The pleasant threat now is to play h5. In all the position when black has a fianchetto, this idea with the h-pawn, attacking with the h-pawn, opening the h-file is just a deadly dangerous for black. Black plays h6, and here the key move with which white is almost winning, maybe not almost, maybe directly winning, is now accepting the bishop sacrifice, just leading to mate in 3 moves. Bishop h6, now rook to h6, king to g7, rook h7 check, king to g6, and then bishop d3 mate. And the game finished in a very similar way. Black took knight to f6, bishop to f6, king h7, and then white takes h take g6 and bishop to d3. And black soon resigned because there is no way to stop the sacrifice. Rook h6 followed by rook h1 mate. Well, this game was also very instructional. White punished it in a very confident way, a small opening mistake of his opponent. And now let me outline the most important things we learned about this line. If black goes knight to f6, and a very similar in most of the positions when we have such option, we don't play knight to c3, but we immediately take knight to c6, and after b takes c6 we play e5, chasing the knight. We don't care that e5 pawn is far advanced. We have our pieces well prepared to support it and to claim an opening advantage. And also the pawn e5 has a very important role in developing the attack on the king side later in the middle game, because chasing the defender, the knight on f6, we have a possibility to build this battery and to deliver mate on the king side. Thank you for your attention. I hope this video was instructional, and I look forward to seeing you back. Dear chess.com viewers, I'm Grandmaster Delchev. Welcome back to my video series about the Scotch game. In this particular video, we'll cover in detail the last remaining alternative, a queen to h4 position, well-known position for the Scotch game, e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, e take d4, knight takes d4, and now black played a very aggressive move, queen to h4, attacking the pawn e4, queen very early. Obviously, this is a very risky, very aggressive. This line is named after the first world champion Wilhelm Steinitz, and now it's not at all exaggerated to say that this move is refuted. But there are still players who adopt it from time to time, hoping to confuse their unprepared opponents. Indeed, finding the invitation over the board is not at all easy. So I decided to devote a whole video to it. But before going in details, I'd like to point one move which you'll never find in any opening books. It's the move d5. It looks like a logical move, but also there is one big problem for black: how to meet bishop to b5. Very obvious refutation, but looks like this is not the best move, as now black takes on e4. Looks like it's going to lose material after knight takes c6. But there is queen to d1, check, king to d1. Now black saves the piece after the move a6. After bishop a4, black goes bishop to d7. Now it's impossible to save the extra piece, so white just continue knight c3, bishop to c6, bishop to c6, b takes c6. At least white is getting a small advantage because of the ruined pawn structure on the queen side, but I think black has enough activity after castle long to compensate. So even though white has a small advantage, it's probably not enough to win the game. So it's really a very nasty problem. How to refute it? I think I found a solution here. White should take d5, and after queen d5, it's a very original way. White goes queen e2 check. The idea is after any of defenses, bishop e7 or knight e7 or queen e5, let's say queen e5, white continue with the knight b5, and there is no way for black to defend c7. Again, the same tactical problem. Remember when black develops his queen too early, and c7 is a very big problem for black to defend. So the only move is to play bishop e6, but then white has a very easy advantage after knight take e6. Then knight c3 attacking the queen. White is already a bishop parent. Superior pawn structure, bishop to b4, now bishop d2. And white is much better. It's going to castle long. And black has the problems with his weak e6 pawn. So it's a very rare line, but now you know how to deal with it. After queen h4, it seems like it's not so easy. It's not so easy for white to defend his pawn. Okay, there is a move, knight c3, first in a very natural move, but after bishop b4, what to do? How to defend the e4 pawn? If you don't know the right way to proceed, it is unlikely that you find the right move over the board. So the move is bishop to e2. As usual, in a Scotch game, the material is not of such importance. The most important is the activity of the pieces and creating threats. Okay, now I will show you a very interesting game in which black didn't take the pawn immediately. They played knight to f6, which was a favorite weapon of a Macedonian grandmaster Nikola Mitkov, who is now playing in USA. I played a couple of games against him, and he was very comfortably playing knight f6 and having a very good result. But let's see first what is happening if black takes queen to e4, accepting the sacrifice. You know, the right way to proceed. The same tactical idea. Knight to b5, attacking c7, and black doesn't have a proper way to defend. If queen e5, then we can have f4, and black cannot defend anymore the c7. So before black playing king to d8, the only move, they first take on c3, spoiling a little bit the pawn structure. Now king to d8, white castle, and white already has a very good compensation for the sacrifice pawn. The black king is in the center. And the best setup is something like, let's say, knight to f6, bishop to e3, rook e8, then we go rook e1, queen to d5. Now queen goes to a3, and then after rook d1, black is already set for a combination, knight c7, or even bishop to b6. It's a very, very unpleasant position. Probably black will not survive for long. So let's see in the game what is happening after the move knight f6. After bishop e2, black played knight to f6. This move is supposed to be an improvement, but as you're going to see in this game, it was refuted, and it was refuted by an ordinary player with the rating 2100. If it's a grandmaster here with white, you'll be sure that he will find this refutation too. White goes here, knight f5, attacking the queen. Black takes queen to e4. There is not anymore anything else. There is no choice. Now white takes the pawn, knight to g7 check, when black has a 3 king moves, but the result is absolutely the same. White has a decisive attack without having given any material for it. In the game, black played king e7. If king f8, white goes bishop to h6. Now if queen to g2, we just go knight h5 check, king e7, then bishop f3, then going queen e2 check. Let's say after queen g6, white goes queen e2 check, then king d8, and now white is winning by bishop to g7. Don't be scared from rook e8 because bishop f6 is check, and after bishop e7, white has okay, many moves are winning, but knight g7 is the more clear way, remaining with the exchange up and completely winning position. After queen h4, now knight f5, queen takes c4, knight g7 check. Black played king to e7, went, white just castle short, bishop to c3, and queen to g6. Black is hoping to trap this knight, but there is a knight h5, easy move. With only king and queen developed, black cannot hope to survive for very long. Just let's have a look at the rest of the game, as it's again an instructive example how to attack the uncastled king. Here after d6, white gets his rook with tempo, bishop e6, knight to f4, attacking queen, setting the knight to f4 in very good attacking position, and now bishop to c4, attacking d5. Black hopes to block the file, and now white has a very strong move. Let's try to find how to continue the attack, how to bring the rest of the army into the action. If you need more time, you can pause the video, but I think the white is very simple continuation. Rook take e5, now bishop a3 check, king to e8. Now there is a plenty of option, even opportunities. Even knight take e6 was probably winning. Bishop b5, bishop to d7, and now after knight h5, and black resign. You know, there should be no more followers of the queen h4 line, but you never know. Being prepared is always useful. I think all these opening videos where I cover the black possible alternatives on move 4 are completely enough to start having fun with the Scotch. But if you seriously consider to use it in your main opening repertoire, I strongly recommend you to go over the subsequent videos. Now, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you back. Dear chess.com viewers, welcome back to my video series about the Scotch game. The idea of this video about the opening traps is to make you aware what tactics exist in the Scotch. It's important to know the refutations of those tricks as a part of our opening preparation. I think it's worth investigating only the misses variation, which is arising after the move e4, e5, knight to f3, d4, e take d4, knight takes d4. Now black goes knight to f6 and white takes knight c6 and b takes c6 and e5. This is the starting position for the Mises variation. And here, this line is intensively charged by tactics. So the opening traps here in this line are the most difficult to figure out over the board. After you watch this video, you'll be able to navigate through the fog without worrying on every move. Let's see one of the most common opening traps played over 100 times. Queen e7, white goes queen e2, knight to d5, c4, now black goes bishop to a6. And I think this is one of the most dynamic, most difficult for orientation position in the whole Scotch game. Here, white goes the natural and very strong move b3. As you remember, this was the idea to keep the bishop a6 harmless and to close the diagonal, defending the pawn. So now we can move our queen away, attacking the knight. And here, black starting the trap with the move queen to h4. What is the threat? The rook a1 is undefended as well. Black is threatening bishop to b4 check. So if you don't know what to do, it will be very, very unpleasant for you, as finding the moves over the board is just unlikely to happen. Okay, the best move is to play a3, avoiding the idea with bishop b4 check. Now on queen d4, you can defend with bishop b2. So here, black is continue with the sharp bishop to c5. Now you go g3, chasing black queen away. And here, the trick starts with the move bishop to f2. Boom! What you do now? In this surprising move, it can caught you unprepared and you can make a mistake. You can take on f2 with the queen and by the king. But which move is the right one? Queen to f2, of course. If you take king to f2, this is the idea. Now queen d4 check, and you're going to lose the rook on a1. But after you take queen to f2, you're going to lose the other rook. Now queen e4 check, white goes king d1, very strong. Now after queen to h1, looks like black won material and he's doing fine. The c take d5 is impossible because the bishop on f1 is hanging. But here it appears that after knight d2, black is in a big trouble, as his queen h1 is trapped. White is threatening to take the knight. White is just continue with the simple moves, king c2, bishop to b2, and then at some point bishop h3, and black queen is trapped. Most of the game continue in the following fashion: knight c3, knight e4, white takes, queen e4, black managed to save his queen, but after bishop d3, queen to g4, bishop f5, and then h4, most of the game finished until move 25. The white is threatening to play g4. Now you see one of the drawbacks of the bishop a6 move, a bishop on a6 remaining out of play. So this is the refutation of this trick, and we are now going to look the following position, the next one. After e4, e5, we have arrived the same position, and the Mises variation. After c4, bishop a6. Now, after b3, black plays the best move, g6. Instead of queen h4, black plays the move g6. They're preparing bishop to g7, and then to castle short and to continue attacking the central pawn e5 if it's necessary, even to play d6 or f6. Here after g6, white goes and move f4, and black continue with a simple and natural bishop to g7, which, by the way, is a small opening mistake. The right move here is the move d6, which I cover in the video about the advanced opening preparation, when I came up with one very strong novelty, which gives white a very strong initiative. Now, after bishop to g7, white goes queen f2, and this position is not for the people with the weak nerves. White king is still in the center, while black has a huge lead in development. To survive in this line, you should be well aware of how to refute the following dangerous traps. If black goes castle short, now black is threatening to take on e5. But the problem is here that we can take the knight, c take d5. After bishop takes e5, we just take queen e5. Now what to do? Black is going to lose the rook, then knight b1 is hanging, the king is in the center. Great problems, no? But we go king to d2, queen takes the rook, and now after knight c3 again, the same problem appears, but this time with the queen from the other side. White has a simple threat to play king c2 and bishop b2, or there is even tricks with the delivering mate with queen f6 and bishop h6, and position is deadly lost for black. This was the second trap. Now we go a little bit back. So in this position, instead of castle, black has another critical move. Instead of castle, black can go knight to b4. Another very dangerous trick. Black is threatening now to take on e5 again, and after f takes c5, if black is to move, bishop e5, and after taking, if f take e5, queen takes c5, then after queen e2, they can go knight c2, and white is going to lose his rook on a1. What is now the best move? The refutation is based on a very difficult to see a geometrical motif. The first move is a3, chasing the knight, and we enter in the main line, bishop to e5, f take e5, queen take e5. Now what should we do? We do king d1, taking, now taking queen b1. What is happening now? Black has a exchange up, and nothing's supposed to be happen with his queen on b1. It's free to move, but after the following maneuver, white is nevertheless trapping the queen. Let's see how. Queen e3 check, king to d8 or f8, it doesn't matter. Now queen to c3 attacking the rook, like goes rook to e8, and now there it is, bishop d3, bishop to b2, and again black queen is trapped. The trick is the white will follow with king c2, then rook a1, and it's all over. So this is the traps when white is winning. Let me now show you one recent game of mine in which I was I caught in a very tricky, very nasty trap. After the move g6, I played f4. Then my opponent played bishop g7, and now I played queen f2, and my opponent played the best move, knight f6. Okay, the best move in this situation. If black goes knight to b6, there is another typical motif in this position. Remember this idea: when the bishop is undeveloped, there is knight to b6. Very often white has the following continuation: c5. Bishop takes f1, the only move, and now white capture a knight on b6. If black goes away with the bishop, then we have a very simple bishop a3, and if black goes d6, then we take b takes c7, completely destroying black pawn structure on the king side. Okay, in this game, let's see this trap. In this game, my opponent played knight f6. I played bishop e2, developing the bishop and attacking the knight again. Knight e4, and here the best move was queen e3, after which white has a big advantage, but I played a slightly more precise queen f3. My opponent played knight g5, attacking the queen e3. Now he played knight e6, and here I decided to play a move bishop a3. Can you find now what happened in the game? Okay, I was deadly lost after this move, and I managed to win the game only because of I was lucky. Well, knight takes f4, a deadly trap. Now bishop e7, the only move. If I take the knight, then bishop e5, winning. So bishop e7 after knight g2. White remains. I remain with the 2 pawns down, and I was completely lost, but only because of some luck I managed even to win this game. My opponent was a respectable international master, 2450, but just it was a matter of luck, I think, this game. So, of course, there is a plenty of opening traps, but as I said, worth investigating is a Mises line, because here is the position is very tricky. Looks like white is much behind in development, and there is a lot of tactical motives playing in black favor. And I think after this video, I hope that after this video, you get some idea what to do if your opponent is trying to get you out of your preparation and trying to win by such tricks. Thank you for your attention, and look forward to seeing you back. Dear chat.
Need a professional logo for your brand? I've used the new Wix logo maker to create one for my startup. I'll show you how. First, go to Wix logo.
I like you, but it's not okay. Whatever, can I walk away? Oh yeah. Can still see your face, so tell me what to do, 'cause I can't find a way. Baby, please just tell me if I'm, tell me if I'm, tell me if I'm fine. Tell me if I'm, tell me if I'm, tell me if I'm, baby, please just tell me if I'm fine. Just tell me if I'm fine. But it's not okay. Whatever, can I walk away? Oh yeah. I love you too, don't love me back. I can't stand this feeling inside my mind. Baby, please just tell me if I'm fine. Please just tell me if I'm fine. 'Cause I don't know why it's stuck in my heart, baby. Please just tell me if I'm fine. Just tell me if I'm fine.
love if you feel like I do right now. Don't say you're on the run to the other side, my love. But you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall, my love, if you feel like I do right now. Don't say you're on the run to the other side, my love. You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose.
Chess.com viewers, welcome back to the video series about the Scotch game. I'm Grandmaster Alexander Delchev, and I would like to focus your attention to a couple of important discoveries which may change the established theoretical situation in the Scotch game. In my opinion, in the Mises variation, white should certainly have a very concrete knowledge to pass successfully the opening stage. So I analyzed deeply some of the most principal black ways, and I found some very important novelties, which now I'm going to share with you in this video. So after the moves e4, e5, knight f3, e4, white takes knight c6, we know this is the start of the Mises line, e5, queen e7, queen e2, knight d5, then c4, and now black most principal ways to play bishop a6, of course. There is a move knight b6, which is a safer line, but it should give white a somewhat better position after knight c3. And now black has a variety of choice. Queen e6 may be the best move. You saw from the video about the Mises variation that g6 is an opening mistake, should be punished by knight e4. The other move used by Kramnik, bishop b7, is better to meet by bishop d2, long castle, and white should keep his opening advantage. And of course, the most principal line here after queen e6, queen e4 is bishop b4. We saw this variation from the instructive game between Fabiano Caruana and Etienne Bacrot, which Caruana won. And of course, there is a move d5, which gives the white the option to play e take d6. Then let's say queen takes c4, exchanging the queens, knight e4, c take d6, and after bishop d2, I think white should keep a small advantage because of his better pieces and better pawn structure. This is not at all problematic lines, so let me focus your attention to the move bishop a6. White goes b3, and here, before I go in details in the black most principal move, castle long and g6, consider the two best black replies. Let me shortly consider all other possibilities, which are considerably weaker. So d6 is a very bad idea, as after g3, and let's say d take e5, bishop g2, black will soon have a great troubles on the long diagonal, as after the knight goes somewhere, a c6 pawn will be hanging. We saw this is a start of an opening trap, and you know how to refute it. This is the move a3, and white is fine. The move f6 is a little bit unpleasant. What will black do after bishop a3? As a queen e6, we have a c take d5, is dropping a piece, and queen e5 is not at all good because the same after exchanging the queens, white is winning the piece on d5. So now you see that black doesn't have a big choice, and let's consider the black main move, a castle long, which is black most common reply at the top level. Although the queen side is not the safe place for the black king, black counts on his large developmental advantage. They want to attack the e5 pawn, and white should play very precisely. The first move is g3, keeping the f4 square, defending f4 square eventually if we want to play bishop b2. So now black goes g5, and it is exactly the line which was considered by Kasparov, analyzed it 25 years ago as the black most principal way. Black is going to play bishop to g7, then rook to e8. The idea of the move g5 is to cut the eventual support from the pawn on f4. We go bishop on b2, bishop g7, knight d2. We want to finish development, and now black goes knight b4. Of course, if rook e8, it's not so good because we castle, and now pawn e5 is untouchable again because after the mass exchange on e5, black is going to lose his knight. He take d5, and black is in the again the piece down. So remember, when the queen is exchanged, there is no any more pin, and white can take the knight on d5. But the most important move is knight b4. It's a very dangerous move. Black is threatening knight c2 fork, and also in some line knight d3 is also possible. And but what I see here, knight b4, there is no a good way back for the knight because all the squares are blocked. So this is the great danger later for black. White plays knight f3, and we arrive now at one of the key positions in this opening, and where my intuition was telling me that there must be something wrong with this knight on b4, but to find the refutation was not so easy, and I found a strong improvement over the top game Wróblewski-Karjakin played in Russia in 2010. Now Karjakin played rook e8, g4 is a bad move order, as we play knight h4, and again exchanging on e5 is not a good idea because we take, and now after rook e8, white goes just simply king d2 and taking rook e5 leading after a3 to again with the losing the knight on b4. So black should play very carefully, and the rook e8 is the only move now. Important idea, we play a3. Again, the knight is very problematic. Black is hoping after g4 to exchange it for the knight on f3, but white goes knight h4, giving the pawn e5. Now black is taking e5, and we go castle long. A very dangerous situation now for black. If bishop b2, of course, we take with the queen, and the knight has no way back. So knight a2 check, only move, king to c2, and queen f6. This was black idea. Now white takes, then rook take e5, and queen d2. In this situation, white is just threatening king b1, capturing the knight, so black should create some counter chances on the e file. Now king b1 is a mistake because there is a rook e2, and black is in the game. So here Wróblewski played the move bishop d3, which after d5 Karyakin equalized. His idea is to play d4 and then to give support for the knight c3, and he managed to save the game. But here a very logical novelty is the move knight g2. The idea is to activate the knight, putting the knight to f4, covering the e2, and only then while to consider various ideas like king b1 or rook a1 to capture the knight. Black best move is c5, knight f4, bishop to b7, bishop to d3. We should sacrifice the exchange, but after bishop h1, rook h1, now black has black is exchange and the pawn up, but there is no defense against the maneuver rook b1, rook b2, and it's the question about the knight a2 is over. So I think this line gives white a very good chances for a win. Now we go back to the position after move the other main line g6. So white is now playing the move f4 after g6. White goes f4. This is my idea. The idea is to go to protect the e5 pawn and to go queen f2 when we had this position before in the video about the opening traps, when we know that d6 is black best move, as the natural looking bishop g7 is leading to a problem after queen f2. Black goes knight f6. Again, knight b4 is not so good, we know. Knight f6, white goes bishop e2, and after knight e4, queen e3. Black has again many problems with this knight. If knight c5, then we have bishop a3. If knight, then knight d6 is the only move. When white goes castle, then knight f5, queen f2, now castle short. And after bishop a3, d6, and knight c3, black piece arrangement is not so successful. White will challenge again the knight from f5, and both black bishops are blocked, and white has some advantage. After d6, white goes now queen f2, attacking the knight on d5. Then again, black has two options. Knight b6 is not the best, as the knight on b6 is slightly offside. So after knight b6, and I would like to show you one interesting game of this line. After queen e6, he played bishop e2, d take e5. White is sacrificing the pawn here, but as a long-term compensation in view of the dark square weaknesses, and black king is in the center after castle, king g7, and f take e5. White has a very strong attack. Later they play knight c3, knight to e4, bishop g4, and they manage to win a very nice tile. So of course, let's concentrate to the black best reply. This is knight f6, and now white goes bishop e2, and after d take e5, my novelty here in this position is, instead of castle short, which was played in the top level, I offered the move bishop a3. The same idea, changing the dark square bishop gives white a strong pressure, king f8. Now we go knight c3, hoping that if black takes now on f4 on this move, that we can play queen f4, and after king g7 to go castle long, and white has obvious compensation, followed by move bishop f3, rook e1 with a very strong initiative. But here black best is to play king g7. So now we should castle short. Now e take f4, queen f4, black goes rook e8, bishop f3, and let's say rook d8. We have one interesting opening position. White sacrifice the pawn, and they can try to have some more winning chances with the clever rook e1, offering the exchange of 2 rooks for the queen. And if black takes rook e1, and then queen e1, rook e1, then king f2, black should go back rook e7, and I think after bishop c6, white has a full chances to play for a win. They have better pieces, and black remains with the 2 weak pawns on a7 and c7, and some problems again with the king on g7. And this was my 2 ideas which I showed you. Now let me underline what you learned from this video. Planning to include the Scotch game in your opening repertoire, then you should you want to beat some well-prepared opponents. You have to invest a certain amount of time analyzing black most principled continuation. Those are bishop c5, the classical Scotch, and knight f6, the Mises line. And in this video, I shared with you my new ideas, which helps white to fight for an advantage even against black best play. I hope you enjoyed this series. And now I wish you good luck in your games. I'm sure you're fully prepared to include the Scotch in your opening repertoire. Hello, chess.com viewers. I'm a Grandmaster Delchev, and you're watching the video series about the Scotch game. In this particular video, I will go over one very instructive game between Magnus Carlsen and Peter Leko. With the white pieces, Carlsen decided to surprise his highly experienced opponent with a new plan involving a pawn sacrifice. After the well-known moves e4, e5, d4, e take d4, knight takes d4, Peter Leko goes for the classic.
Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun. To dream, believe in strength. Now I'm the only one, only one. Until I broke the rules, my life destroyed. A life destroyed. today. Today. To dream, believe. You are the strength, you're all I need. Oh, gonna give it a shot. Only one of me to shield you all from the enemy. You're a superhero. You're a superhero. Can I be your superhero? Superhero. 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 Can I be your superhero?
Classical Scotch, bishop to c5, and Carlsen played bishop to e3. He's threatening to win a piece, to which black has three different moves, and the best is queen to f6. If he plays d6, bishop c5, and then after the move d takes c5, changing the queen, the endgame is almost winning for white. So the other move is, of course, the blunder, knight to e7, as white is going to win a piece with knight takes c6, bishop to c5. So Leko continue with the best move, queen to f6. Here in this position, of course, white goes c3, defending the knight on d4, and after knight g to e7, bishop to c4, we have a main starting point of the classical Scotch. And the most common move here is knight to e5, but it's useful now to have a wider picture of black possibilities. Queen g6 is a move which I already considered in my previous videos. Can you find now the refutation of this move? If you need more time, then you can pause your video. Of course, knight takes c6 to bishop to f7 check, winning a pawn, the king to f7, you just go queen to h5 check, and took the bishop on c5, and remaining with the piece up, with the pawn up, and soon won a game. The other moves, the other good move is d6. It looks like the most natural move, but after white castle short, there is only way to meet the threats of knight b5 and knight c6, knight to e5, and after bishop e2 and queen g6, black is coming back to the game. It's just transposition to the game. And there is one more possibility for black to play b6. Very interesting idea. Black is castling long, aiming to castling long, and supporting the d5 break by the rook on d8 and the bishop on b7. My suggestion here for white is to play castle short, f4, typical way to continue, just taking the central square e5 after castle long. Now we have one more time the opposite side casting position, where white can more quickly start his initiative by sacrifice b4, c take d4, and now d5, e5, queen h6. Now just coming back, and if black takes the pawn, then after queen d2, knight c6 and f5, suddenly black is in a serious trouble. His queen is going to be trapped. So let's come back to a position after bishop c4, and black plays the main move, knight e5, to which white responds bishop e2. And here Peter Leko played the queen to g6, which is the most precise move order for black. With d5, it's too early, as opening the center is risky. White goes castle short. If black takes the pawn, then have a very strong move, knight to b5, attacking both c7 and c5. And doesn't matter what black is doing, they will going to lose the material. If bishop to b6, then we take bishop to b6. Queen to b6 looks like everything is in order, but the refutation is queen to d4 with double attack, attacking the knight on e5 and queen on b6. And after exchanging, white takes the pawn, c take d4, and there is a double attack against c7 and the knight on e5. The move bishop d6 is also not saving the game, because white has a very strong option, bishop to c5, which is a very big advantage. Taking to c5 is impossible, as it leads to mate into e8 mate. Okay, so now you understand. Black goes here in this position, queen to g6. Reason. Now we have a white goes in castle short, defending the g2 pawn, and black played d6, again the best move. You know already the refutation of d5. I've seen already this move introduced now in my video, my previous video. You can refresh your memory. You can check the video about the classical Scotch. Remember, after bishop h5, the move gives white almost decisive attack. So, after the move d6, now Carsten is choosing the most aggressive option, the move f4, sacrificing the central pawn. He is achieving to have a long-term pressure in the center and on the queen side. Now, Black decided to accept the sacrifice, and another safety move was just to go knight to g4, which I recommend to take. Bishop to g4. After bishop to g4, used to play queen d3, defending the pawn and keeping good attacking chances, as f5 is an unpleasant threat. And here, on the move f4, Black shouldn't go the move bishop h3, attacking g2, because we have rook f2. And after knight g4, it's a very aggressive reply. Now, can you find the white winning consequences? The move is f5, attacking the queen. And if knight e3, we have a counterattack against white queen, but we have a queen a4 check, and Black is going to lose his queen. So, we have now position after queen takes e4, to which Carsten responds with the move bishop f2. And now a couple of good moves are needed to stay in the game. Black took bishop to d4. This is an only move. Taking the pawn is not recommendable, because knight b5, attacking both c7 and attacking the queen after exchanging the bishops. And of course, another wrong move can be knight to g6, when white goes knight d2, attacking the queen. Taking the pawn again is bad, because knight b5, but queen d5 is also not helping, because bishop c4 and black queen is trapped. So, after bishop takes d4, bishop f2, bishop takes d4, white takes c take d4, and black goes knight to g6. White has knight to c3, and after queen takes f4, white goes d5. Typical move, knight e5, and then knight b5, attacking c7, and black is losing material. Doesn't matter what he do. For example, castle, knight c7, then after rook b8, white goes bishop take a7, winning material is attacking both the queen and the rook. So, after taking on d4, of course, black went knight to g6, play g3. And this is now the critical position, when Leko missed the most critical point, because having lost a lot of time finding the safe way to the white's minefield, now he doesn't want to spend too much time and play quickly the move, which looks like the most simple solution. Play the and move castle short. Of course, here black only continuation to stop white initiative.
Every time we say goodbye, they all see that it's a lie. 'Cause we always give it one last try. Yeah, you've watched me break 1,000 times. Now I'm all alone, 'cause you never show. You say you will, but then you don't. That's how it goes. Don't wanna know. I'm turning off my mind so I get by. I just wanna be happy, happy tonight. Happier tonight. Happier tonight. Can't be waiting for you in the morning. I'ma leave without giving a warning. I'ma leave without giving a. But every time we say goodbye, we all know that it's a lie. Now I'm all alone, 'cause you never show. You say you will, but then you don't. That's how it goes. Don't wanna know. I'm turning off my mind so I get by. I just wanna be happy, happy tonight. Happier tonight. Happier tonight. Can't be waiting for you in the morning. I'ma leave without giving a warning. I'ma leave without giving a. Every time we say goodbye, we all know that it's a lie.
Initiative was to play bishop h3, and after bishop f3, queen to f5, rook e1. The key move was a d5, blocking both white bishops, aiming to sacrifice, to return the pawn after queen b3, castle, knight to c3, and then c6, blocking safely both white bishops on f3 and f2, and having at least the equal position. Another possible move was to play d5, immediately blocking the d4 pawn. Can you now see? Can you find the best white continuation? Try to find the refutation of this move. If you need more time, you can pause your video. Here, of course, white is playing bishop on d3, attacking the queen. And after the only move, queen e6, white goes f5, winning a piece, as knight take f5 is losing to rook e1. So now you understand how dangerous is the position for black. G3 went castle short, and now Carsten realized his main idea, knight c3, queen f5, now d5. With this move, despite black's extra pawn, now it's much more easier to play white, as he has a lot of space, the good places for his pieces. There is a knight b5 idea, rook c1, bishop can come to f3, then knight from b5 coming to d4 White has a complete domination. Black has a lot of issues defending the pawn c7 as he goes c6. His d6 pawn will be falling. So after a6, Black will defend it against knight b5, but there is rook e1. Black was planning to go knight g8, knight f6, but he didn't realize this idea on time. And after rook c1, bishop to d7. Of course, there is no big deal. It's a useful move now. Defending d5 pawn, preparing the knight e2, knight d4, activating the knight. So now a couple of passive moves which gives White a very strong initiative. Queen b3. Now b5 is the only move to defend, and knight e2, preparing knight d4. When we didn't find the proper way to create counterplay, it was possible to complete the idea with transferring the knight to f6, creating some counterplay. But he played immediately queen h3. Now knight d4, bishop g4, trying to exchange some pieces. But after bishop g2, h4, when you see all black pieces are stuck on the king side and his queen side pawns are falling. And he continued knight g8, and after rook c6, and Carlsen just took the pawn, and b5 is also dropping. White should be winning. So let me resume the most important point of this game. With the move f4, Magnus Carlsen introduced a dangerous plan involving the sacrifice of his central pawn. Then when he played d5, he cramped down black position on the queen side, and the possession of the strong bishop pair and the semi-open c-file proves to be decisive. When Leko didn't find the proper way to create a reasonable counterplay, and the complete disaster of his queen side was only a matter of time. I hope you enjoyed this instructive top-level game and learned something more about the positional ways to fight in the Scotch game. When your opponent is entirely focused to stop your tactics, then sacrificing material, getting a complete domination might be the most dangerous way to continue the opening initiative. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Dear chess.com viewers, welcome back to my video series about the Scotch game. Now we'll take a look at one more instructive game between Fabiano Caruana and Etienne Bacrot, played in 2013 FIDE Grand Prix tournament in Thessaloniki. In this tournament, Caruana played quite strong, sharing the second place with Gatakamsky, and in overall, Caruana was very close to qualifying for the 2013 Candidates Tournament in London, which however was won by Magnus Carlsen. After the opening moves e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, e take d4, knight d4, knight takes c6, and then e5, Black goes queen e7. You know already the reason why Black is doing this move, as after both knight d4, knight d2, knight takes d2, bishop takes d2, White achieves somewhat better position thanks to his superior pawn structure. So Black main move, the key move is queen e7. Now White goes queen to e2, knight d5, c4, and now Bacrot chose the positional continuation, knight to b6, avoiding the unbalanced position arising b3, and now either a castle long on g6. You can check my suggestions how to meet this in the advanced opening preparation video. Now we go back to knight b6, played by Bacrot, and meted by knight c3. You want to play the best move, and Black is at the crossroads. Queen to e6. This is the move which, as well, is my opening choice when I play Black. The queen steps aside, giving the air for the bishop to go to the dream square b4, pinning the knight. And there is a couple of And more moves, interesting. Bishop to b7. My suggestion here to meet is bishop to d2. After castle long, rook to e8. We have a rook e1, defending the pawn, and black goes queen to b4, f6, or bishop to a6. And this is an amazing position when white can go queen to e4, defending against both continuations, both threats, with f6. Now white has an amazing option, e take f6, sacrificing his queen, rook e4, knight to e4, attacking the queen. There is only one square, queen a4. Now white is winning back with knight to c3, with double threat, attacking the queen and threatening rook e8 mate. So f6 is a little bit impossible, as you see. And after the bishop a6 move, there is a typical tactic arising. White goes c5, a double attack. After queen takes c4, there is bishop to a6 check, winning a piece. Another interesting move, which we already seen, leading to very unpleasant consequences. After knight e4, if you need to, you can refresh your memory, checking the video about the Mises variation. It gives white a tremendous pressure. So now you understand the best move is probably queen to e6, which now Caruana played queen to e4 as well, preparing the development of the bishop to d3, centralizing the queen, to which black responds bishop to b4, pinning the knight. Black is preparing the move d5 when white queen is undefended. But there is one more option now. When the queen is on e4 and the e4 square is occupied, black can go safely g6 and attacking the e5 pawn. And it appears that after the natural continuation bishop g7, white has c5, move c5, and after knight d5, bishop to c4 gives white a good option to build the pressure. Now this is the pawn sacrifice, but if black accepts, then after the long castle, black is much behind in development and white has a strong attack. So we go back to the game. Bishop to b4. Bishop to d2, blocking the pin. Black continue. Bishop a6, attacking the pawn, to which Fabiano Caruana responded with b3. And black takes, this is a theoretical continuation. Black is giving up his very important dark square bishop, but is looking for a way to activate his other bishop on a6. And after bishop to c3, black goes d5. Actually, this move is winning a pawn, but this seems to be not a big deal for white, as black queenside pawns are tripled then after d takes c4. And white's most important issue in this line is to restrict black counterplay in the center and somehow to complete his development. Queen h4, black takes the pawn, d takes c4. Now a very important move is rook to c1, defending the bishop in case of knight d5. White will be in a better position after bishop c4, queen takes c4, and now white is restoring the material equality, keeping some pressure against black double pawns on the c file. Instead of this, Bakro played another theoretical move, very strong, queen to g6, busy with defending the g2 pawn. And what should white play? Caruana came up with a very important novelty. He played the move g3. Of course, when you look at this move, you think, oh, what can be more simple than that? But this move has an obvious drawbacks. After castle short, white king's position might become vulnerable to an attack along the a8 h1 diagonal. Black goes castle short, bishop to e2, rook d8, taking the open file, and white castle short. Black goes c5, also a very strong move. restricting the bishop, the c3 bishop, and preparing to build the battery on the long diagonal with bishop b7, then queen to c6. Caruana goes rook e1, activating the rook, and after bishop b7, he played a very important move, bishop to g4, threatening e6, after which opening the diagonal is giving quite a very strong attack. Now after bishop g4, Bacro played queen to c6, attacking mate, but there is a simple defense f3. How to stop the move e6? Bacro played the move bishop c8. I think his entire strategy was based on this move, aiming to block the e5 pawn by the bishop and keeping the dangerous dark square bishop away from the king side. But here, Caruana continued with a very strong thematical move, e6. This move is almost deciding the game, because there is no defense of the threats on the long diagonal, and after black took f take e6, because bishop take e6 is even worse, as there is a very strong sacrifice, rook take e6, f take e6, and now after queen e7, there is no way to defend. If e5, there is bishop e6 check, king h8. The mate is approaching. So after f take e6, the only move, Caruana went queen to e7, and from this point of the game, he didn't allow anymore his opponent to restore the defense, and won in 43 moves. Let me now resume what we have learned from this game. In the Mises variation of the Scotch, black smartly avoided the main line with bishop a6, as his opponent was no one else but the world #1 opening expert Fabiano Caruana. After some calm opening moves, white emerged with the bishop pair and a better pawn structure, but to fight for advantage, white should play very carefully, restricting first his opponent's active pieces, and for this reason Caruana played rook c1, then g3, and started his attack only after completing his development. Soon he has got a nice opportunity, launched an attack with the move e6, avoiding the block on the e6 square, and I think at this point the game was already decided, as black couldn't stop his attack. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Dear chess.com viewers, I'm Grandmaster Alexander Delchev. Welcome back to my video series about the Scotch game. A very exciting opening which arises after the opening move e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, e take d4, and knight takes d4. In my previous videos, I already covered the main option for black, bishop to c5, and another option, knight to f6. We know what is the best way to proceed. Let me turn your attention to the rarely seen black alternatives on move 4. When you play against someone who is not well prepared, or he just wants to avoid your opening preparation, you can meet and move knight to d4, which actually is the move which black doesn't have to do. Now after queen takes d4, black releases completely the control of the center. White is again controlling the two central squares, and black doesn't have any reasonable move now. As knight to f6, white has e5, and black knight should go back. Bishop cannot move from f8, and the only move which makes some sense is d6, when white has a big freedom to choose in his setup. So let's say knight to c3, knight f6. And now, as usual, the most aggressive plan is to develop the bishop and castle long, preparing attack with the pawns well-known attack with the pawns on the king side. After, for example, castle long, then let's say bishop to e6. Now white attack starts with the move g4. The idea is to chase the knight from f6, then play h4. Even if your opponent play knight to d7, you can try sacrificing the pawn h4. Of course, taking the pawn is very risky, as white goes queen d2, followed by queen h2. If h6, there is ideas to sacrifice the bishop, but first we play, like, let's say, after h6, we go king to b1, and white is already threatening to take bishop h6 and to win the game by a direct attack. The other interesting move you can see is the move queen to f6. Black is offering the queen exchange, which generally white should be avoided. As with the space advantage, we want to keep as well the queens because we want to organize an attack. This is the idea of the opening. So where to put the queen? I think the best place is to play queen to e3. We're keeping the c5 square covered, so black doesn't have a possibility to play bishop to c5. And if your opponent insists on exchanging queens, we can go, let's say, queen to g3, keeping the queens, which is very important if you want to organize an attack later. So let's say black can play bishop to b4 check. It's an interesting move. Black wants to transfer the bishop to b6, let's say after c3, bishop a5, white continue, bishop to d3, bishop to b6, now queen to e2. And here white keeps all the chances for developing the initiative by knight d2, knight to c4, getting eventually the bishop pair, or continue with a4 later, chasing the bishop. In such positions, white keeps a minimal advantage with his better center control, and has a more pleasant position in the fight, in the forthcoming fight. So another option for black, which is the third most common move, is the bishop to b4 check. Let's now go a little bit more seriously, talk a little bit more seriously about this option. On the first sight, it seems illogical, as white has an easy move, blocking the check, attacking the bishop, and then black goes, let's say, bishop to c5. And we have just arrived at the classical Scotch, but with one tempo more for white. We move c3, it's extra move. But what is the point? Why black is playing this idea? What he has in mind? The idea is that now after bishop e3, of course, we continue this natural move. Black goes bishop to b6, and now white doesn't have the setup with knight c3, queen d2, and castle long. And in this position, black is going to develop his knight to f6. White doesn't have a comfortable defense of the pawn e4, then goes to castle short, then maybe put the rook to e8 with an attack against the pawn e4 as well. Black has the option later in the later stage to attack the center with the move d5. So here a key move for white is knight goes to f5, attacking the pawn on g7, and at the same time preparing the transfer the knight to e3. Now I will turn your attention. Let's look at one very interesting game between Robert Zelčić, a Croatian grandmaster playing white, against Michele Godena, one of the best Italian players in the history. In this position, Godena played a move queen to f6, which this time, 2001, was considered as the best black reply. If black takes on e3, of course, Godena tried to avoid this possible development of the game. Knight f6. Now white has a very strong move, f3, defending the pawn. And after castle short, white goes c4, building some kind of Marxi bind, and which promise him long-term space advantage, and black counterplay with d5 is completely out of question. So let's see what happened after queen f6 in this game. Black is defending the g7 pawn and preparing to move knight to e7 to exchange a strong white knight. So in this position, Zelčić came up with a very strong novelty, which puts generally a move queen f6 in a question. Can you find this move? Try to find white strongest moves. As we know, in the system with the queen f6, there is one small problem with the undefended c7 pawn. But now white doesn't have a knight which is usually attacking this pawn from d4. That's why white is playing knight to a3, a very strong move, surprising move, which probably missed by Godena. Now black should be worried about how to stop knight b5. And the threat is knight to b5, and there is no defense of c7 point. This was a turning point of the game when Godena missed a very strong move, which is typical for this position, but maybe he was thinking about it, but it's very complicated. Godena played the move bishop to e3, which gives white a possibility to stabilize his advantage. The move d5 is very interesting that this is a novelty. Now, 20 years later after this game, it's not still played. What is black idea? Of course, taking queen d5 looks like an easy solution, but there is knight e7 very strong. And if white takes knight e7, there is a very important intermediate move, bishop take e3. And after f take e3, black takes queen to e7. The full compensation for the pawn because of the white double pawns in the center and control of the e5 square. So what if white goes knight to b5? The idea of the move d5, which probably was missed by Godena, is that after bishop takes f5, now he plays bishop to b6, removing the defender from the c7 pawn. Now black has a very strong move, c take b6. This move is very easy to miss both in calculation during the game and in the home preparation. Now, after knight c7 check, black goes king d8, and after knight takes the rook, black has bishop to e4, and it's impossible to prevent losing the knight on a8, and black will have both material and positional advantage. After missing this move, Godena was in big trouble. After bishop takes e3, knight takes e3. Now he has a problem dealing with both knight b5 and knight d5, and after queen e5 attacking the pawn, bishop to d3, knight to f6, white goes castle, completing development, castle, and now white can immediately start his attack with knight d5, a very strong move. He played rook e1, just postponing a little bit the actions. After queen e8, white goes knight to d5, attacking the pawn. Then after queen d8, another aggressive move, knight b5. Comes the pawn, e take d5, and then the blocking sacrifice with d6 is giving white a huge advantage. So black played after knight b5, black played knight to e8, and white continued with e5. And in this position, white has a overwhelming advantage. His pieces are prepared to attack on the king side. Also, he has a complete center control, a typical position for a game when black spoils something in the opening and white develop his attack without any problems. So let me draw some conclusions. You see already that avoiding the main lines with bishop c5 and knight f6 is not entirely safe for black. You have already a knowledge, very important knowledge about the different lines. And don't forget to solve the questions that follow up this video. Now it's time. You have to take some practice. to do some practice. So now go to the chess.com, play some blitz, take the bull for the horns, and enjoy playing the Scotch game. Thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you back soon.